Adam Taxin with Daniel Greenfield about his Sunday, July 22nd column, which is called "So That This Never Happens Again." It can be found, like all his columns, on at sultankanish.blogspot.com. Daniel, welcome. And it sounds like the opportunists didn't take long to take advantage of the Aurora massacre for their own agenda.
Absolutely. Well, you never want to let a good crisis go to waste, and in this case, they're certainly trying to exploit the crisis again, push gun control, but it's not really gun control, it's people control, because guns are inanimate objects. This is as usual for the left, it's about controlling people.
You make a great point early on in the column that states with pretty liberal, in which people are basically allowed to carry concealed or even openly, have much lower murder rates than states like Illinois, New York, and California. Yet that seems never to be an issue to the Michael Bloomberg's, and you also mentioned Salman Rushdie and Patricia Cornwell and Jason Alexander, a.k.a. George Costanza, has now made a statement. What do you think's going on with that?
In their world, if people have firearms, then they're dangerous. But in reality, of course, as is pointed out, high firearm ownership does not actually correlate with high homicide rates. It's not that people owning guns makes people dangerous. It's the people who are dangerous or they're not dangerous, regardless of the percentage of firearm ownership. But for the left, the idea is that if you take away control from people, if you disempower people, then you make people safe.
Why is it, I got to ask, I hear about Jason Alexander, and it was clear that it would be Dianne Feinstein, who's not halakhically Jewish, actually, or Bloomberg or Chuck Schumer. Why is it always leftist Jews who they stick out in front of the gun control thing?
Well, it's not just leftist Jews. Salman Rushdie is not exactly Jewish, right. Neither is Patricia Cornwell. There are plenty of examples, but there's a high percentage of Jews who are politically active. A large percentage of them are politically active on the left. A small percentage are politically active on the right. I mean, we're two Jews and we're having this discussion right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's just that you would think Jews would be a little wary of it with their experiences with the pogroms and Nazis. It's as if it never occurs to them.
Well, they're not operating out of historical experience. Jason Alexander has never been around a pogrom. To him, it's a scene from Fiddler on the Roof. These people aren't operating. Dianne Feinstein, as you mentioned, isn't even Jewish at all. Bloomberg is a billionaire who moves around with bodyguards. These people aren't operating in that world. They're operating in the liberal paradigm. There's nothing Jewish about that paradigm. It's just a large percentage of Jews are liberal.
I find, not that you mentioned it in your column, that the disingenuous is very clear. If, God forbid, you ask them if minorities have a higher murder rate than whites, I don't know what kind of mumbo-jumbo they'd give you, but that obviously explains a lot of the difference between Utah and Wyoming and New York and California and Illinois. Do you ever think about that at all?
Well, it's a topic that they can't allow to be raised at all, because obviously the statistics there are problematic. It's not purely minorities, but Louisiana, for example, has the highest murder rate in the country, I believe, and that has a large minority population. On the other hand, there are some states, white states, that are primarily white that also have high murder rates. So it's not always that simple, but certainly having a large minority population is going to boost crime rates.
Interesting. Now tell how this all fits in with the police state that is a major component of liberalism, or at least associated with it.
Well, liberal social policies create social meltdowns. For example, if you import in enough immigrants, you're going to have high crime rates. So the police state then tries to patch over the problem by ruthless policing. So, for example, you have the Democrats wreck New York, so Giuliani came in and embedded the police state. And you have this happening all across the United States. You have the soft on crime 70s, followed by the tough on crime 80s. Once liberals wreck a culture, once they wreck the population, once they wreck really any social values that prevent people from behaving this way, then you need to implement the police state. And you have this kind of back and forth. Bring in enough Muslims, pander to them, you have terrorism, then you need a police state.
What do you expect to happen in terms of July 27th and the UN Small Arms Treaty, which is a way of basically destroying the Second Amendment that Hillary Clinton is expected to sign?
Well, it's one more reminder why we need to get Obama out of office as soon as possible.
Any final thoughts?
Well, just to remember that not to fall for these kind of panics or this we must do something hysteria, which is the theme of the article. It's important to remember that individuals are responsible for individual actions. There's no collective village which requires that all of us now feel responsibility for somehow not passing enough gun control laws or whatever the current hysteria is.
Daniel Greenfield, your column can be found at sultankanish.blogspot.com. Thanks as always for your time.